When Jerry Jones tells you that he had a bid that hit his ask, and he had a specific ask, that rang true to me. When we have to trade a player, we still have an ask. If that ask is not going to be hit, we get to decide whether we're going to trade that player, except when you have to trade the player. I had to trade Miguel Cabrera, period. Jerry Jones didn't have to trade Micah Parsons. That was not part of the game. It wasn't a financial reason this season or next season we must trade him. He's a signed player for a year. Is it possible Jerry Jones said to Micah Parsons right at the end, by the way, you want to stay, play on your 5th year, see what happens, and then move on? Or we'll sign you later. Of course that's possible. Why wouldn't you say that to a free agent to be who you can't come to agreement with? You say, hey, play out your free agency. You have 1 more year with us. Let's have a kick-ass season, and then we'll see what happens. Everything about this trade made sense from the Cowboys' standpoint. But then Jerry Jones kept talking. Listen to what he said later in the press conference that was total horse hockey.
But I will say this, that it was important that we did get, if we could get it, the kind of interest that we got in making a trade for Mike. He was an asset that we got 4 great years out of. But when you are talking about making a contract the kind that he got and for the future, that's quite a commitment. And none of that counts about what he did those first 4 years. It all goes against what he can do for you in the future, the length of that contract and maybe more. Well, then you've got to really weigh how many players. And I'm just going to give you this. Not only do we immediately get a player, but those draft picks could get us, I'm talking top Pro Bowl type players, could. Not necessarily, you're going to be quick to say, you won't necessarily get those players. You got to draft them or acquire them. But they could get us as few as 3 or as many as 5 outstanding players.
Jerry, you had it. You had the messaging perfectly, and then you screwed the whole thing up. Because you got done telling us earlier that you had already offered him the most money, the most guarantee, and the most money of any non-quarterback ever. You already had made the decision that you had wanted to sign him. You had a deal cut with him. Whether it was with his agent or not, we can debate. Whether or not Micah Parsons agreed to it, we can debate. But you can't tell me now, after you trade him, that, hey, how would we ever want to sign him when we can spread that cap money around? We can bring in first rounders. We can get a defensive tackle, Kenny Clark. Stop it, Jerry. This is when you need the GM to say to the owner, shh, we cannot say that. We're going to get nailed. What changed? That Jerry Jones wanted to allocate that money to the cap. He wanted to have Micah Parsons long term. He valued him as the highest paid player in the game, non-quarterback. And all of a sudden that changes. Did it only change because Green Bay offered 2 first rounders and Kenny Clark? Or did it change because Jerry was acting like an owner and was angry and hurt and disappointed that Micah didn't sign the deal that he thought was agreed to? Was this a punitive measure and he just didn't want to say it? Well, here's what you do. When you make a player transaction and there's a reason behind it that you don't want to discuss, here's what you do. You don't discuss it, but you don't do the bait and switch to another story. Jerry Jones spent the other part of this press conference telling you, of course I lie to the media. You asked me whether Micah was on the trade block, and I said, no, we're not trading him. And he said, of course I wanted to say that because I didn't want teams to know. That's also horse hockey. I've done that. Say to the media, oh, no, this player's not going to be signed or this player's not going to be traded, except I would say it with everybody could be traded. I went the other way. Why would I say what Jerry Jones says? Why would I try to tell you that I would say what Jerry Jones says? You don't need to say what he said. You can just say, yeah, is Micah Parsons possibly going to be traded? Everyone could be traded. Some players are less likely than others. That was the line I used. That line makes sense to me. The problem with saying absolutes as an owner or a GM is you look like a fool when it doesn't happen because people have memories. Although the analysts for this trade, no one's got memories. No one's saying a word other than, oh my God, Jerry Jones, the incompetent. I don't know, Coca. What's the over under here? What's the win-loss total on the Cowboys? Can you look at that from our friends at DraftKings? And if any way to find out what it was to open and what it is now? Because what is it, a half a game? A half a game? The last thing I'll say about Micah Parsons and his post, his statement, when he talked about sort of how things went, I guess I would ask you this. When yesterday we told you that Micah Parsons had to go get a second opinion on his back, what's your view on that today? Is he a Green Bay Packer with a $188 million 4-year contract with $120 million of it guaranteed at signing? I have a quick question. Micah, are you going to get your back checked? Because did Green Bay ask about your back? Do you need to pass a physical prior to getting $120 million? How's your back feeling today? You can mark my words that Micah Parsons will not be going to get his back checked by another doctor. What were they at? The Cowboys are down to, they were at what? They're down a game. 7.5. This just makes my point, actually. The Cowboys over under was 7.5 games. There are not 10 games in a season. There's 17. The market said that they were going to go 7-10 or 8-9. Guess what? No playoffs for you. Sorry. Now they're going to go 6-11 or 7-10. Wow. Wouldn't it be amazing if we thought Jerry Jones as an owner had a better GM? Because if he had a better GM who drafted better, you'd have an opportunity to actually make your team better. Maybe now and certainly in the future. But until Jerry Jones fires himself, which after last night's press conference, I don't know, was that the owner talking to the GM? Because if that's the GM giving that press conference the way he gave it, I am firing that GM. If that's the owner giving the press conference the way he gave it, I'm never letting the owner talk to the media ever again. Not one more time. Ever. Fire me if you want, but I will not be a part of you talking to the media while Stephen Jones sips his water at 62 saying, Jesus, I'm Prince Charles, for crying out loud.